This presentation is about the Bullitt Center in Seattle, Washington. The developers of this project wanted it to be the greenest urban office building in the world. Prepared and presented by Rebecca Bodine. The project is located at 1501 East Madison Street in Seattle, Washington. The site was chosen for its excellent visibility and accessibility. The land uses around the property vary to create a mixed-use neighborhood. The building was designed in accordance with the Living Building Challenge, and it has an expected lifespan of 250 years. There were many innovative systems used in this building, and the team got creative with how they financed the project. The property is owned by the Bullitt Foundation and was developed in partnership with Point 32. Miller Hull Partnership, Suchart, and U.S. Bank played important roles as architect, general contractor, and lender respectively. There were numerous sustainability consultants and engineers that worked on this project. The design of the building allows for natural ventilation and passive cooling. The building itself is very well insulated, which enables it to help regulate its own temperature. Additionally, the Bullitt Center has CO2 sensors that determine when fresh air is needed inside the building, which then open the Suco-branded windows. However, if it's too hot or cold outside, the windows will stay closed and the ventilation system will provide outside air that is conditioned to appropriate temperature. When heat is needed, the outside air is warmed by energy that comes from exhaust leaving the building. During the summer, the windows open at night to remove hot air from the building. Since the Living Building Challenge requires net zero energy use, solar power was critical for this project. The Bullitt Center produces energy from its 575 solar panels located on the roof of the building. The solar panels produce energy based on actual sunlight, so they produce more energy than is needed in the summer and less than is needed in the winter. A deal was worked out with Seattle's electric company to store power in the winter and then use it in the summer. Rainwater is captured on the roof and transferred into a 56,000-gallon cistern. Before entering the cistern, the water is filtered through a vortex filter to remove large particulates. Next to the cistern is a tank that holds 500 gallons of potable water that has been ultra-filtered and run underneath ultraviolet light. The building is plumbed to be able to run completely off its own water, though it had to run off city water for a period of time before all approvals came through. The toilets at the Bullitt Center are specially designed to feed into composters in the basement through almost completely vertical pipes. The waste is then decomposed in a Phoenix composting system where the waste is mixed with wood chips and continually turned over. The waste particles become smaller throughout the decomposition process. Once the process is completed, 3 products come out of the composters. CO2, which evaporates through heat recovery ventilators, stabilized leachate that is taken to King County Liquid Waste Facility to use in bird sanctuaries, and biosolids that are sent to GrowCo in Kent, Washington to be made into fertilizer. In order to comply with ADA requirements, an elevator was required in the multi-story building. The elevator in the Bullitt Center is designed by Cone and it has a regenerative mechanism so that as the elevator slows down, energy is captured. A motor located at the top of the elevator shaft collects the energy from slowing the elevator car and converts it into electrical energy that is able to be used throughout the rest of the building. It is estimated that this elevator is 60% more efficient than standard elevators. Only biodegradable soap is used in the sinks and showers so that all of the wastewater can be reused. The wastewater is then pumped up to a constructed wetland, which is a green roof with layers of porous gravels and soils on the 3rd floor. The water then goes through drip lines that allow plants to absorb the nutrients. The process is repeated several times until the water is safe to be deposited into the bioswales on the edge of the property. Washington State has 2 mandates that apply to the Bullitt Center, the Washington State Energy Code and the regulatory policy of net metering. The Washington State Energy Code sets energy efficiency standards that must be met just like any other building code. The net metering law requires utilities to offer net metering to all customers. Net metering uses a bidirectional meter that tracks both the energy coming in from the utility and the energy going out to the utility. Seattle has its own mandates and codes that the Bullitt Center team had to follow as well. Seattle has various green building codes that cover energy benchmarking, construction and demolition waste, green factors, and stormwater issues. The City of Seattle also has its own energy code that is one of the most advanced in the country. It applies to new construction and major remodeling projects. The Seattle Energy Code regulates many features of the buildings, including the envelope, HVAC systems, water heating, lighting, metering, and plug load control. Seattle also requires electrical permits for commercial projects that are installing solar systems that weigh more than 1,000 pounds are worth more than $4,000, or are structurally complex, all of which apply to the Bullitt Center. Part of the capital for the project came from various financial incentives from federal, state, and local sources. Section 1603 Renewable Energy Grants provided reimbursement of 30% of the cost of the solar power system in the Bullitt Center. The Business Energy Investment Tax Credit allowed a tax credit of up to 10% of the cost of the geothermal system. The Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System is a financial incentive that allows capitalized cost of certain renewable energy technologies to be recovered over a shorter period of time. Through use of the system, the Bullitt Center Foundation is able to use 5-year lives for depreciating assets. The Renewable Energy Sales and Use Tax Exemption provided 100% exemption of sales tax for the solar panels that the Bullitt Center installed. Priority Green Expedited and Priority Green Facilitated are programs that help speed along the government approval process by reducing the amount of time it takes to get a building permit and master use permits. The Living Building Pilot Program is also an incentive that helped this project come to life. Additionally, there are some local incentives that can be customized for specific projects. The Living Building Pilot Program was developed in collaboration with the Bullitt Center Foundation. It started in December 2009 and was specifically enacted to promote participation in the Living Building Challenge. The Bullitt Center was the first building built under this program. This program simplifies the process of seeking departures from Seattle Land Use Code. Flexibility is provided by the city in exchange for the developer's promise to pursue a Living Building Challenge certification. Some variations to regular code that can be approved through this program are parking quantity requirements, use provisions for accessories that directly affect an imperative of the Living Building Challenge, standards of solid waste storage, ceiling heights, and floor area ratios. This program also works with the Priority Green programs in Seattle to expedite permitting processes, and it was a big reason why all sustainability goals of the project were able to be met. The Bullitt Center was constructed for a total cost of $32.5 million. The land cost was $3.8 million, while the finance costs were $470,000. The hard costs, which included pre-construction, construction, owner's direct, and sales tax costs, totaled $23.36 million. The soft costs were $5.29 million, including architecture, engineering, permits and municipal fees, utility expenses, testing and inspections, and miscellaneous costs. The various financial incentives helped to offset the large total cost. The financial backing for the project came from 4 sources: equity from the Bullitt Foundation and New Market Tax Credits, and debt from U.S. Bank and New Market Tax Credits. New Market Tax Credits serve as a way to complement existing equity as well as fill in financing gaps. The Bullitt Center's major investment was in the actual building, so protecting that investment is very important. One way to protect the investment is to ensure tenants behave in a way that will support the goals of the project. The leases for this building outline requirements that tenants must meet to help attain and maintain certification as a living building. All of the leases for the building center require tenant cooperation in terms of commissioning, operation, energy and water use reduction, and waste reduction. One stipulation in the lease is a water and energy use budget for each tenant. In order to continue encouraging sustainable practices, there are dashboards in the lobby that show water and energy use by floor. Management has stated that they feel as though this creates a friendly competition among tenants to keep their respective energy and water use to a minimum. Another stipulation requires management's approval before making any alterations to the property to ensure that only materials that are permitted in the Living Building Challenge are used. Not only did the Bullitt Foundation want to develop an incredibly green office building, they also wanted to make a difference in the community. McGillvra Park is a half-acre park that was revitalized as part of the Bullitt Center project. What was once a forgotten traffic median is now a place for all to enjoy, and it includes a public plaza, seating areas made from reclaimed timber, and a ping pong table. All changes had to be done carefully to protect the London plane trees that have been on the site for over 11 centuries. The Bullitt Foundation worked with the Seattle Department of Parks and Recreation, the Seattle Department of Transportation, and the Seattle Parks Foundation to make the revitalization possible. Funding for the park was provided in part by Seattle Parks, Green Spaces Levy Opportunity Fund, and a capital campaign was launched to raise the remaining funds. While it appears as though all of the goals of the project were met, only time will tell if the building will actually last 250 years.